Hi, friends. Yesterday in our book, Twisters on Tuesday, in chapter 8, Jack and Annie had gone back to the schoolhouse to help their friends get into the storm cellar because the tornado was headed that way. So luckily they were able to get in the storm cellar and safely wait until the tornado passed by. So in chapter 9, we're going to pick up where we left off yesterday. Chapter 9 is titled All Clear. Jeb pushed open the cellar door. Daylight streamed in. He looked out. All clear, he said. Jeb crawled out of the cellar. Jack followed him, then Annie, Will, Kate, and Miss Neely. The sky was gray above them. The twister had torn the roof off of the dugout and sucked everything out, even the rug. They all stared in shock at the empty space. Then Miss Neely smiled. Well, at least we are all safe, she said. They stepped out of the hut. The air was thick with dust and bits of grass. The twister had cut a wide path of dirt and destruction across the prairie. It was still whirling away in the horizon. Everyone watched silently as the twister became long and thin like a piece of rope. Then it vanished completely. Miss Neely turned to Jack and Annie. You saved our lives, she said. Thank you, said Will. Thank you, said Kate, hugging Annie. Well, Jeb actually opened the cellar door, said Jack. Yes, thank you too, Jeb, said Miss Neely. Here's a picture of them outside staring off at the tornado in the distance. The older boy frowned. I hope you can get a new school, said Annie. We will, said Miss Neely. Just as we planted our fields again after the grasshopper attack, we'll build our school again after the twister. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Jack thought Miss Neely was one of the bravest people he'd ever met. You're a good teacher, he said shyly. I love teaching, she said. It's a job that lasts forever. Whatever you teach children today travels with them far into the future. That's true, said Annie, and Jack smiled. Well, we better leave again, he said. Bye. Everyone waved except Jeb. Jack and Annie started across the prairie back toward the treehouse. They hadn't gone far when Jack heard someone shout his name. He turned around. It was Jeb. Wait, the older boy yelled. He had a fierce look on his face. He started running towards them. Oh no, Jack thought. Did Jeb still want to fight? Leave us alone, Annie said angrily. Shh, Annie, said Jack. Let's see what he wants. When Jeb got close to them, he stopped. He looked right at Jack. Why did you come back? He asked. Well, we wanted to tell you about the storm cellar, said Jack. How did you know about the cellar? Jeb said. Jack pulled their research book out of his leather bag. We read about it in this book, he said. Jeb stared at the book, then he sighed. I want to read someday too, he said. That looks like a good book. Jack didn't know what to say. He was still afraid of making Jeb mad, so he just nodded. My Ma and Pa were too poor to go to school, said Jeb. They want me to go, but I'm getting started mighty late. It's not too late, said Jack. It's never too late, said Annie. Jeb narrowed his eyes. Well, if you ever come back through here, he said. Yes, Jack asked carefully. Was Jeb about to threaten him again? Maybe I'll be able to read that book of yours, Jeb said. Jack sighed and smiled. I know you will, he said. Jeb smiled back. He had a nice smile. Thanks for coming back to rescue us, he said to both Jack and Annie. Too bad you can't stay. I reckon we'd all be good friends if you did. I reckon we would, said Annie. Jeb nodded. Then he turned and ran back to join the others. Suddenly the sun broke through the clouds. The wildflowers danced in a gentle breeze. Ready? Said Annie. Jack just stood there staring at the sunlit prairie. Jack, are you ready to go? Annie asked. In that moment, Jack actually didn't want to leave, but he nodded slowly and said, let's go. He and Annie took off through the bright, sparkling grass. They ran to the small grove of trees near the creek. They climbed up the rope ladder and scrambled into the treehouse. Annie picked up their Pennsylvania book. "I wish we could go there," she said. This time, the wind did not start to blow. The treehouse simply started to spin on its own. It spun faster and faster, then everything was still. Absolutely still. So tomorrow's chapter, chapter 10, is titled The Third Writing, which is the third thing that Jack and Annie need to find. So tomorrow we'll find out what happens.